Minister, this is an important piece of legislation. This is changing the nature and structure of our democracy, and we need to get it right. And it's something we've been thinking about and talking about for more than 10 years. And I think it's really disappointing that the way this has been introduced, that at the last minute it's been rushed. We read in newspapers, as I commented to Taoiseach earlier today, that both the Minister of Finance was bitterly opposed to what was being proposed because there was no costings, and the Attorney-General was bitterly opposed because there was no detail on the powers. And I find it hard to believe how something that's been so long in the making and the doing is delivered in such an inappropriate, incomplete, dare I say, incompetent manner. And 2 years ago, our first private members in this Dáil, we introduced a bill for directly elected mayors. We asked that there would be consultation, that we didn't press it to a vote. The government said that they would engage with the other opposition parties. Not a single instance of such consultation or cooperation taking place. So we still support the bill because we want to see directly elected mayors in all our cities and towns, and we want to see it in Dublin, but that's not happening at the moment. But we really want to see it in Cork, Limerick, Galway, Waterford, because those cities need new leadership. The leadership that's been there for the last 20, 30, 40 years has led to a sprawled model of development where the centres of our cities have been hollowed out, where out-of-town retail centres have taken over, where the car dominates every Irish city and town, and where it's now gridlocking and does not work. We want these mayors to have real powers over the chief executives, working with the chairs of the strategic policy committees, so that we start to get housing and transport and local environment and culture right. So we will support this bill and want to see it through, but we have to mark a protest that the speed in which, the way in which it has been introduced, the lack of consultation with opposition parties, and we all have an interest and we all have expertise and experience in local government. The Minister has to commit tonight to engage in a proper process of consultation with the opposition parties so we get this right. It's not party political saying that, it's in all our interests. Whoever gets elected as mayor, we all know that the current system does not work and needs to change. Needs to change in Cork, probably more than any others, because Cork has sprawled. What's that song from Johnny Spillane? Johnny don't go to Ballincollig, Johnny don't go to Carrigaline. Because it, Lord, unlike any other, Lord, like every other our city, but just with spades on, has sprawled. And part of the problem with that was that the county was living off the city in ensuring that its development on the edge of the city gave it a rate base, but had no consideration whatsoever about the strategic development of the city. And we fear that that sort of approach to development in Cork may still go ahead. The likes of developing Monard, where you'd be a kilometre from the proposed county-city boundary, where the county will be just doing the same game of just getting development at whatever cost, despite the fact that the Cork transport system is now coming to a gridlocked halt, as I said earlier. It needs to be backed up by real budgets to give cities the flexibility to start investing in the public transport solutions they need. Cork needs a light rail, as does Galway, Waterford and Limerick. They need really significant public transport projects, and they have to be led by political leadership, and that political leadership has to then extend to putting housing beside the public transport. Limerick has 4 rail lines going into it, and no real connection between that transport infrastructure and the development of the city. Galway is a disaster in transport terms. If Cork wins the Booby Prize for worst development model and sprawl, Galway is surely the worst example on the planet for bad transport planning. I remember 20 years ago a road engineer saying to me, as they put in the orbital road with all the roundabouts, he said, as sure as eggs are eggs, all those roundabouts are going to gridlock and we're going to have to take them out. And nothing is changing. The only proposal in Galway is yet more orbital roads and no real radical thought in terms of how public transport might stop that city developing the way that it has done. Waterford the same. I mean, there are positive developments in Waterford in terms of the likes of that greenway, if we could run it right through the centre, and the development on the far side of the bank, which we support. It's not all negative. But Waterford, God help us, could do with a lift. It should be the capital of the South East. The Mayor of Waterford should really be the kind of leader of the South East. pulling in Waterford IT, pulling in the kind of industrial past history of the city to actually relaunch Waterford as a counterbalance to the development of those other cities. And it needs political leadership to make that happen. So, Minister, we support the initiative. We want the plebiscites, but we want to know what exactly are the powers, and we want to know that in the coming weeks, not months, so that people know what they're voting for. We want to know when if the plebiscite is approved. I asked the Taoiseach today, but he wasn't able to give an answer. When would the mayors be in place? If the people say yes, is it envisaged that 3-6 months later we would then have the election for the directly elected mayor, and that we would appoint the mayor in on top of the CAO, using the chairs of the strategic policy committees in the council as a cabinet which they could run the city? Is that the approach, the sort of approach that we might propose and suggest? But, Minister, you need to start discussing with that with the rest of us, because if you don't do that, if you don't get this right, I'm not certain that we would get the plebiscite through, because the people would rightly say when they come to vote, what am I voting for? Who do I trust?
I'm not interfering, but if you are sharing, you have 1 minute left.
I wasn't intended to share, but I will leave that unless my colleagues have spoken previously.
Sharing. If you're not sharing, then continue.
I will conclude with that, Carlick, and look forward to hearing the Minister's response.